What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. Joined as always by my main man, Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, I'm having a beautiful day. Weeks go by so good. Came back from vacation, so I had to do the work thing for a couple
Ugh,
days. But it is what it is, and moving on, and had couple of good days at work, and some a lot of craziness is going on today with the Falcons, potentially in some
right?
cases. So
Yeah.
it's a I'm glad they got all this stuff done before 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, it gives us some definitely some interesting things to talk about. Also, like having to get like used to the fact that there's some like actual movement, right? And
Hmm.
we'll get into this here in just a little bit, but I'm not used to seeing the Falcons with this much you know movement in the free agency market after the first initial wave. I was like, all right, cool. Then they made a good splash. They done some good things, and now it's time to focus on the draft. But as we could tell, uh, they ain't done yet, and
Right.
that's been fun to watch. So I guess without much further ado, might as well just go ahead and get into it. What's going on, everybody in chat? I'm glad everybody's in here tonight. We got Ghost Pepper and Bradley Burnett and Millie Mills saying, "What's up? What's going on, Millie?" We appreciate all y'all joining us tonight. Chris wants to
Absolutely.
know who got Terry a new barbecue, buddy. I don't know,
Well,
but he is cooking. That
see,
much is for sure.
I didn't want to tell you, but I dipped into the P for P slush fund, and
Okay, all right.
I sent that man a new barbecue. That's why we got so much stuff going on
Well, hey,
today.
look, it well worth the investment then. Well worth the investment, I say. Uh, Probably wasn't a very big barbecue, maybe one of them tabletop deals, but either
Hey,
way,
man.
it was enough to get him cooking. That much is for sure. Um,
Yes.
what's up, Jay Black? How you doing tonight? Glad you decided to join us.
What's up,
Let's
man?
see. Okay, let's jump in right here real quick. Coast Paper says, "What's good, P for P?" In the words of Reggie from Nutty Professor, Terry be shopping, baby. Terry be
Yeah.
shopping, and you can't stop Terry from shopping, and that's been the fun part, right?
Yep.
I mean, last week we had all the fun talking about you know Jesse Bates and David Onyemata and Caden Ellis and trying to figure out like how all these guys are going to fit in and what these guys are going to look like and what they're going to do. And like I said, man, I figured pretty much about done, right? I mean, you got your big signing in Jesse Bates. You locked up a couple of your guys in the right side of your offensive line, and I figured, okay, now it's time to turn our attention to the draft. I mean, to the point where we've already like recorded a show for Friday that's probably going to come out on Friday, talking about some draft guys. So then you get the news that uh, they break with, or not break, but you get the news that they were in on Mac Hollins, and initially where that came from was a source that I had never heard before. Guy had a awesome graphic and everything, and everybody was like, I posted it out there, because somebody hit me up with it on Twitter, and so I put it out there, and I was like, don't know if it's true or not, but be interesting if so. And then it finally started breaking through the other channels. So Mac Hollins comes in off of his best year of his career. He's 29-year-old, 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver. You can really tell that Arthur Smith wants a basketball team out there, for his receivers. Um, but coming off a career year, low mileage as far as what he's done in the league. So what did Mac Hollins like? Did that move the needle much for you?
It moved the needle in that this guy seems to be like he was a guy that prior to last year had not production wise did not put up the numbers.
Right.
Then he comes in last year, given a chance to be a starter. He put up numbers,
Yeah.
right? He didn't put up like all pro numbers. He didn't put up Pro Bowl numbers, but he put up some decent numbers. Had a really good game against the Titans. And this guy is prototypical Arthur Smith kind of guy. He's a guy that is willing to get in. You know, I didn't know a ton about him when I first heard it,
Right.
but looking into him, this guy is willing to do the dirty work. He's willing to get his hands dirty. He'll get in there and block, and he's a good blocker. He's probably top 5 like blocking wide receiver in the NFL. And so you get a guy like that who is willing to put in that kind of work, and with the likely understanding that like on most plays, he's going to probably be at best third option in the progression.
Right. And I saw somebody say like, they likened him to like a cheap man's Alan Lazard. And I thought that was a real good comparison. For years, for the first, like last year, for sure, we wanted Alan Lazard here, mainly because of his blocking, but also like red zone threats and stuff like that. And Mac Hollins like represents that same thing. Like if we don't bring in anybody else, and we'll talk about another wide receiver here in a few minutes, but if we don't bring in anybody else, like he'll be listed as your like wide receiver 2.
Yes.
But as I've mounted a campaign to try to get everybody to look at it a little bit differently, probably call him target 4.
Yeah, but if we're just looking at it from if we're just looking at it from a depth chart perspective, this guy is, again, unless you go and get a guy in the first round, this guy is likely going to be your wide receiver 2. If you pick up a guy in the 3rd or 4th, 5th round, somewhere in that range, likely they will, unless they completely blow somebody away, they will likely be wide receiver 3. And maybe Zacchaeus is brought back as 4.
Yeah, I was about to say, Willie just asked, do you think Fontenot has given up on Zacchaeus? I don't think Fontenot's given up on Zacchaeus, but right now the wide receiver market is not one that you have to be in on like quick. As a matter of fact, like I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I almost get the feeling like this free agency is playing out a lot different than last year. Like you're getting a lot of guys with a lot of like 1-year deals. And I don't know if that's just like the league trying to, clap back at the idea of fully guaranteed contracts or what have you. But that's been really interesting to see that certain markets aren't jumping off like they were. Maybe that speaks to how the NFL views the wide receiver draft class. If guys like, because I mean, Jerome puts out like Mecole Hardman's still out there, so he's this draft class wasn't like, no, I mean, this free agency class wasn't great to begin with, but either way, but there's still like a handful of names out there. DJ Chark is still sitting out there. Odell Beckham is obviously still sitting out there. Big name. Don't know what you're going to get from him, but big name. That's still just kind of chilling.
Yeah, and some of those guys might still be chilling until after the draft. Like,
right.
A lot of teams might see like what can they get in the draft. Once they're done with the draft and the undrafted free agency stuff is done, then they'll probably look at what's left and like, okay, what do we still need? And if wide receivers a need, then that may speed up. I don't think we're going to see anything as far as numbers. We're not going to see some crazy numbers or anything like that. Because if we were going to see crazy numbers, we would have already seen it.
Right.
It was this off season. The big ticket item was defensive tackle.
Yeah,
like it was defensive tackle and offensive line.
Right, because the offensive line, which makes the numbers for McGarry even crazier. The fact that we were able to get him in that. But before we move too far off the wide receiver stuff, might as well go ahead and talk about this. Where did the comment actually go? Because I want to credit where did he go? It was Fred Butts. talking about we're interested in trading,
Yeah.
for DeAndre Hopkins. Now that's been a report. There it is. Thank you.
Yep.
That's been a report that has come out. Now the only source I saw was Benjamin Albright. Now Benjamin Albright is a guy who is really connected as far as his sources go, but he mainly covers the Denver Broncos. Like he is almost, I don't know how to, he's not a, I don't think he's strictly sports talk, but I know he covers the Denver Broncos, but he tweets out a lot of stuff that he hears. And so they linked, he linked the Atlanta Falcons as a place that, or as a team that was checking in on DeAndre Hopkins. How do I don't really know how I necessarily feel like, because no budget. Charlie says no to Hopkins. He's due over 19 million this season. I agree.
I can almost guarantee you if we decide to trade, that's going to come with a significant restructure. Would be my guess. It's not. He's not going to get any less money. He's going to make whatever money he was going to make, but it's going to end up being a restructured deal to where, because exactly, it would have to be, and he would have to be open to that. Now, if he comes in, then he's likely your wide receiver 2.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hollins then slips to 3. OZ and OZ probably doesn't come back.
I'm about to say if they make a move to trade for Hopkins, then at that point, Mac Hollins is your OZ. Is your third wide receiver target. Fourth, fifth target on the list, kind of thing. But and that, like Willie says here, he says I'd rather see Frank Darby or Barnett over Hopkins. But if they pull the trigger on that, that kind of lets you know how they feel about Darby and Hopkins. Not Hopkins, Barnett, like Darby and Barnett, because it's interesting that they haven't, they weren't necessarily, at least that we've heard, they weren't in on Jacoby Myers. They weren't in on Alan Lazard. They were in on Darius Slayton.
Yes.
So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, like D-Hop would represent, when healthy, represent a major upgrade over everything else we had outside of Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Right. Can he stay healthy?
That's the thing.
If he could stay healthy, which again, the problem is he's an old guy.
Right.
Old guys, once they start breaking down, they just kind of keep going. So, in that situation, he would have to restructure for one, just to be on the team, and two, he would have to restructure because team wants some protection against him getting injured again.
Exactly.
So,
that's not the one I meant to hit. This is the one I meant to hit. Jacqueline says I keep refreshing my Twitter. Yes, I have been refreshing my Twitter for like a week and a half now.
When you see me go this way, I have Twitter right there. I'm constantly like, all right,
same here.
Show me the next 35 tweets.
That's right. Show me what's going to happen. Now Jerome was making a comment on saying, like, who is the big name left guard we were rumored to be trading for? Anybody else heard this? I haven't heard that we were in on any other like offensive linemen, but
that came from Cam Marino.
Oh, okay. Well then, like not like he'll, like, I could D him that I heard something and he'll tweet it out. So yeah, I'm not really taking much on Cam Marino. Appreciate that, Fred Butts, for your $2.
Thank you
so much for that. He says, I think we're taking Nolan Smith at 8. I don't know if we're taking Nolan Smith at 8.
Look, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, because hell, anything can happen. I don't think of the guys that will be available in the draft at that spot, if we stick at 8, right? If we stay at 8, the guys that will be available at that spot, he's not BPA. Like,
No, no,
he's not.
I mean, I hate to say it like this, and somebody already kind of like brought it up, but like I think we would end up taking Bijan Robinson before we took Nolan Smith at 8, or we would take Peter Skoronsky at 8 before we took Nolan Smith. I mean, there's going to be 3 corners that you would probably take before you took Nolan Smith. Now, if for some odd reason Nolan Smith is sitting there at 44, I think they might be all over it. But yeah, no, Nolan Smith, definitely not so much. Now, right before we got on this, Nick brings it up. He says Calais Campbell will bring that vet presence. Now, right before we got on today, it was rumored that, or not rumored, there was an announcement was made that we are bringing in Calais Campbell for a visit. Now, this is another big name, but this is a guy on the very much the back end of his career, 36 years old. Like it almost
37, I think.
Yeah, it would almost be like a Dwight Freeney type signing.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to bring in Calais Campbell, it would. Part of me thinks like that would signal like maybe wanting to try to get like a Tyree Wilson or a Miles Murphy or even a Keon White and let them learn behind or around Calais Campbell on how to be a big edge rusher in this class or in this league. So, like, you think I'm off base on that, or what do you think there?
No, I think, well, to kind of jump the gun a little bit, if they bring in Campbell,
sorry,
and Goldman shows up and actually wants to play because he was reinstated.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's something we're going to get into here in a second too, as well.
Then I mean, at that point, like at least for this year, you would have Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, Calais Campbell, Eddie Goldman. Like that's 4 stout defensive tackles, and that's not including the 1 or 2 guys that you're going to have. Taquan Graham is another guy, so you add him into the mix with all these vets,
right?
And so he's just learning from those guys. Not saying you don't take a D lineman, interior D lineman in the draft. Might be a guy you take later on and maybe try to stash him on the practice squad at that point. Or you try to bring in a Carter if that's what you're feeling, or you wait till the second and bring in your Asaki Asai or whoever else. You bring those guys in, and you're just like, I mean, we're going to have likely, if that's the case, Calais Campbell would be the guy that we would probably bring in on like a 1 year.
Oh yeah.
At best, probably maybe 2 year.
Like
and if we bring him,
you might structure it in a 2 year with a void year, but
yeah. But so he'd be gone next year. But this is you can get a rookie guy come in, can learn from Calais Campbell. This guy's been a stud in the league for just about his entire career. And I remember last time he was a free agent, I was like, I wish.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I wanted him so bad.
When he left Jacksonville before he went to Baltimore, would have loved to have had him. Appreciate that, Andrew Bateau. $5 tip from you, sir. He says, "What's up, fellas?
Andrew.
Loves the It says, love the content. Keep it up. Would you guys be interested in T. Higgins if he was available? Hoping Toby D is doing well. Toby D is doing well. Just for everybody who is interested, I shot him a message today when Goldman was announced that he was reinstated because he was super hyped about Goldman last year. I'd be interested in T. Higgins. Like T. Higgins, yes, sir. Definitely. Yeah. Now, I don't think we will want to give up what it's going to cost for T. Higgins. But, T. Higgins, yeah, I would definitely be all in on T. Higgins. Let's see. Project Warrior. 1 second. Let me mute myself so I can hack up a lung. All right. Anyway, Project Warrior says all of our signings are short-term cap and team-friendly deals, which are great for roster control. Most teams just lock up dudes long-term. Glad we didn't. T-Fon's doing work. Yeah. Like outside of Lindstrom, yes, all these like Lindstrom and even the way Bates's contract is structured. Is still they're big contracts, but they're structured in a way that are interesting or not are good for the team, and I like that coming off of how Dimitrov's structured contracts. This is like Fontenot's been a breath of fresh air in that aspect.
Yeah. Uh, Here we go. Dre here.
Hmm.
Calais Campbell or Yannick Ngakwe?
If I had to take it, I would take Yannick myself
Yes.
because younger, you could have him around for 3-4 years maybe if you wanted to lock him up that long. Um, but if you're thinking that part of why you would like to bring in Campbell is like I said, to help mentor guys, kind of a vet minimum, and not maybe not minimum, but vet guy to like help bring along some of your, not even just some guys that you might draft today, but you got to think about the guys that are on the team already. Like you got, Arnold Ebiketie, you got D'Angelo Malone, like
Mhm.
somebody who has been as consistently successful as Calais Campbell. Like having him in that room is going to help elevate that room just for his knowledge.
Absolutely. And like you bring in a guy like Calais Campbell to help. Exa- he helps you to do the thing that they've talked about wanting to do, which is build the culture.
Right.
Right. This guy's been a pro his entire career. I've never heard anything weird or off, oddball or whatever. The guy seems just come to work and do the job and handles himself like a pro. And and he's a tough sob.
Yep.
He's been in the league and been successful at it for so many years. And you want to bring whatever his mentality is that allows him to do that. If you can bring him in to spread that around that locker room,
Yeah,
that's
dude. Yeah, you
that's
do that.
almost that's almost as valuable long term than anything he would do this coming year, short of sacking a quarterback on fourth down to win the Super Bowl. Like
Right.
short of that, like anything that he can leave behind, like as or use his presence to say like this is how this is going to go, like that's almost as valuable as whatever he would do on the field.
Now Tony's saying that San Francisco is heavily trying to sign Yannick Ngakoue. And that that may be the case. Like he may be more wanting more money than we're wanting to put out on that position right at the moment. So
Yeah.
I would like to have him, but who knows on that aspect.
I mean,
Goes
it basically could be a another Davenport situation.
right.
What Ngakwe is far more accomplished than Davenport, but might be just that same thing where we have a ceiling that we're willing to go to. He
And
feels
that
like he deserves more than that, and maybe San
then
Francisco is
we move
more
on.
potentially willing. Yeah,
Yep. Ghost Pepper says Campbell is a great leader and has the physicality we need. Plus, he can still get you a sack or five. Yeah, I definitely think so. I agree with that completely. Jerome says, "Are y'all comfortable with the middle linebacker situation? Do we re-sign Evans or do we?" I'm just gonna like lump all this up because I haven't had time to like really dive into the linebackers per se. But or do we look for the draft for a linebacker? Right now, the only linebacker in the draft that I have looked at now, I've heard a lot of good things about Trent Simpson from Clemson, but for me right now, the linebacker that I have watched any game film on is Jack Campbell out of Iowa, and he's a guy that I've loved to plug in the middle. But to be completely honest with you, I think that they are excited about what Troy Anderson brings.
Mhm.
Obviously, familiar with what Caden Ellis brings. I think you're going to get another linebacker at some point, um, but because you need depth, obviously. So, I mean, Evans might be a cheap. There's been rumors out there that they want to bring him back. Maybe he's just trying to see what his market is. Linebackers haven't really moved a ton. We did bring in Tae Davis,
yeah. He's more of a special teams guy, isn't
right, special teams guy, but he's a special teams guy that like his
he?
first year in the league, he was pressed into service and actually performed okay. That might be a guy that they think that they can catch on the rise. I'm not sure. Bato says, what are your guys' thoughts on Goldman returning for $2, which we very much appreciate.
Yes, very much. Andrew.
We'll go ahead and throw that banner up there. Might as well, since I did kind of jump the gun earlier.
I was the first one that did it, but yeah. Trying to take my credit for jumping the gun. Come on.
Well, we were both gun jumping. But no, I think that's interesting. That in a way could change the outlook of what you might actually do in the draft. So if Goldman's returning, I still think he's only played in the league like played.
I think he'll be 29.
Yeah, so
he'll be 29, and he's missed like the last 3 seasons essentially because he didn't come back for COVID.
He came back the 2021 season.
Yes,
he played for Chicago. Then he signed for us. Then he retired 16 days later or whatever it was. And so he didn't play last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what he looks like when if he comes back. Like the cynical side of me was like, okay, good. They're going to reinstate him just to release him, because, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound like that's the plan. If that was the plan, I think that would have happened at the same time.
Potentially, but sometimes like the like paperwork involved may just take a little bit longer to process. So we may hear tomorrow that that he's been released. But
I don't know. I mean, the way it sounded, like the fact that the staff like put out like a little article on it. I know they're not always privy to the information, but I don't think that they would be putting out an article of any kind if they weren't actually like bringing him back. Now he might get cut during camp or something, but I don't think he's going to get released right away.
Well, I mean, I would, if he's coming back and is actually preparing to play, I will be excited about it. Until we know what his intentions are going forward, we'll see how it, we'll see how it goes.
Now, I mean, that does like with, as you were alluding to earlier, with Grady, Taekwon, David Onyemata, Eddie Goldman, like that's and if you add, like if you throw Calais Campbell in that mix or whatever, that's a stout, very stout mix. That you can have a solid rotation especially if you're like wanting to continue to add guys like Timmy Horn, or if they bring back Anderson. Was it Anderson Abdullah that signed, or was
it was Abdullah Anderson. It was him. He did sign.
And then it was Dickerson's the other defensive tackle that they may bring in. So yeah, I'm interested to see what he represents. Like, is his head back in the game? Is he ready to, come in and ball? Because when Eddie Goldman is on, at worst, he's an elite level run stuffer. At worst,
yeah.
But he can also give you some pass rush.
He would be. I mean, I don't know some of the other guys, like Horn and Dickerson and those guys, but this Eddie Goldman, at least on NFL.com, he comes in at he's a 6'3", 325.
Yeah,
so boy. He'd be one of the bigger guys on the line. So he would be your like obvious run situations. He's your nose tackle.
Yeah, he's your true nose. Fred, appreciate that $2. He said the Falcons are bringing in Trey Flowers. They've already brought in Trey Flowers.
Yes,
so
he's already been in.
He's already been in, but I don't know if he was in after Mike Hughes, who we briefly touched on. I don't know if he was brought in after Hughes or if he was brought in before Hughes. If he was brought in before Hughes, then they went with Hughes. But if he was brought in after Hughes, they may still be looking to add to the cornerback room. which I'm going to touch on here in just a second. But Willie Doc
Go to
sent
the
us
doc.
$5, which we appreciate. He said, which position group was strengthened the most in free agency? Which group is still the weakest? Thanks, P for P. Strengthened is, I would have to say, the secondary. Like you've
Yes.
added Mike Hughes, you've added obviously Jesse Bates. I think that's strengthened probably the most.
Jesse Bates alone,
Right.
assuming he plays he continues the kind of play he's done to this point in his career, and maybe takes it up a notch because he's another year older. But assuming that he has that same kind of play that he had in Cincinnati, if he brings that here, that immediately makes everybody underneath him
So,
better
yep,
in the
so much
secondary,
better.
because now they don't have to be so worried about getting beat deep. Uh, just like we talked about, I think we talked about it in one of the last week's shows we did. Like that's the reason why not San Francisco. That's the reason why New Orleans and Cincinnati and those kinds of teams could get up there and mug wide receivers up front because okay, yeah, you're going to get beat from time to time. You're not, the guy's going to beat you you're going to try to bump this guy and he's going to beat you. All right, it's going to happen. Everybody in the NFL is a good player. Um, but you don't have to worry about it as much when you got a guy in the back end like a Jesse Bates that can, worst case scenario is the catch is made, but you're not giving up a touchdown, right? You're at least making them still have to work more to have to get that touchdown and not giving up some cheap easy shot.
Right. Right. Yep. Um, let's see. What was I gonna say? Y'all are making me. I was gonna type it out, but I'll just say it now. Y'all in the chat, y'all are making me laugh. Like a lot. Tony writes over here, so I see the Dallas Cowboys re-signed Dante Fowler, so he can keep collecting checks from a team. Well, y'all are ruthless, man. That's great. But and then Millie Mills over here is like Ogundeji looks like a potential cut. Sorry, I said it. You know what? I'm just like I'm impressed that you typed out the name.
Yeah,
Because like
I
good on you.
I could I would have had to look it up.
Yeah, well, I'd have been copying and pasting. Um, Reggie says, "Jr. I just saw your tweet. Had to come in here and check it out. Good. I'm glad you're in here. From the Twitter. We started to, live streaming on Twitter as well, just to
Yep.
maybe cast a wider net. Let's see. Okay, here's another. Okay, Richie Grant. No, that's not the one I wanted. This is the
That was
one I
the one
wanted.
I wanted.
That's the one you want. Okay, we'll get you to say. Trey Flowers is insurance if Gonzalez is drafted before 8. Looks like Bijan to me, fellas. Here's an interesting thing, and this confirms something that Terry Fontenot said when he first got here. He looks at free agency to fill needs because he wants to fill needs with veteran players. What that tells me is he's not trying to count on rookies like right away. Like he wants to, um, develop players when they can. Doesn't want to necessarily have to depend on them.
Right.
But then he does BPA for draft. And so far, like he's been really holding to that. And that much I'm impressed with. And some of these signings kind of lean towards that. Like you're going to be sitting there at 8 with a plethora of options, whether it be Carter or Gonzalez or Bijan Robinson or whoever. And you're going to be able to pick and choose what you want, like legitimately. Like it's almost as if like he views every pick in the draft as a luxury pick because by the time he gets there, we've already got a team, and I
Yeah.
think that's a great way to go about it. And I'm excited to see it this year now that we've really signed some talent.
Yeah, and the that whenever before free agency got here, everybody was like, "Oh, we've got to take this, and we've got to take that, and we've got to do this, and we got to do that."
Uh huh.
Uh, my whole argument was, let's see what we do in free agency.
Right.
Let's let's
Right.
let's let's see what free agency brings. First year we've had money to go and spend. All right, they've gone out and you know, they have gotten guys all over the team. They've gotten offensive, or they haven't gotten, but they've re-signed offensive linemen. They've gotten defensive lineman guys. They've gotten linebackers. They've gotten safeties and now cornerbacks. They've gone out and put vets in positions in all levels of our defense.
Yep.
And we've got vets at all levels of our offense, right? Uh, whether if you want to say Cordell Patterson is a vet back in the backfield, we got that. We got Taylor Heineke in the QB room as the vet to help hopefully do a better job than Mariota did of helping to bring Ritter along.
Right.
Just be the guy to support Ritter as he's going through this. So we have gone through and we made a couple of bigger moves.
Right.
The big splash was Bates. Onyemata is a really good player. Caden Ellis, really good player. We've started to put guys in positions where we needed help. And if it continues like this, look, if we bring Calais Campbell in, if Eddie Goldman is the guy that's going to actually stick around and play this year, and we get, some kind of decent production from him, then I come the draft, I don't really care who you
get. Right. It shouldn't be
just bring in just bring in talented guys. Get guys that fit the mold of what you're trying to build, but also have that talent and are coachable. You bring me those guys, then I don't really care who we pick. That's where I'm at.
What OK says for what Smith wants to do, Bijan Robinson should be the pick. That's what I keep trying to say, every chance I get, every little mock I put out or whatever, not necessarily pounding the table for Bijan Robinson, but pounding the table for adding more talent to the backfield. If we are going to be a dedicated run team, we are going to need more talent in the backfield. And that is one of the easiest ways to ease in a rookie quarterback. And essentially that's what Ritter is going to be. If they stick with Ritter, then he's essentially a rookie quarterback. So the best thing to do is to give him that solid run game. Noah E asks a real good question. He says, what players do you see taking their game to the next level? Right off the top of my head, it's going to seem like he's taking it up a notch, but I'll say it like this. I think Ebiketie is going to take a huge step forward, and I think it's going to be because of the elevation of talent around him. That's going to allow him to, whether it's the secondary, giving him an extra second to get to the quarterback, if it's Onyemata and Grady actually being able to get some penetration. So now you're having to dedicate resources to blocking those guys, giving Ebiketie more one-on-one chances. I think you're going to see a nice jump from Ebiketie next year.
Yeah. So real quick before I give my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Boss, appreciate you contributing to the draft. That's or right. In the chat. You don't need to yell at us. Yes, we did hear about Goldman coming out of retirement. But yeah. So I'm excited if he's coming out of retirement and he's actually going to play for us.
Right.
Until we know his intentions, until we know what he wants to do or what he's going to do, then I'm kind of reserving it for the moment. But yeah, it's if he's coming
huge,
back to add to our D line, that's huge.
He's still yelling. He's still yelling at us.
Man, boss, I promise you, boss, you don't need to yell.
You don't need to yell.
But no, if I had to pick a guy, and I agree with you on the Ebiketie, I think both him and Malone, but I think Ebiketie more so can be those guys. I think the guy, because I know I've heard a lot of people be like, we need to go get this because of him.
Right.
I think the guy that's probably going to take the biggest jump is probably going to be Drew Dahlman. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to come back. He's going to, have another season. He's going to have a better rapport with Ritter. He's going to have just a better understanding of the offense. He's going to just be another year in the league where he's just done nothing but pump weights. He's going to get stronger and all those. And a center doesn't have to be the strongest guy. He just needs to be the guy that is in the right place at the right time and be able to anchor on times where he's nose up on a nose tackle, right? But I just everything that I heard from the team is they liked his progression from game 1 to game 17.
Right.
They felt like he got better throughout the year. And if you just look at just the offensive line in general from year 1 of Ledford to year 2 of Ledford, the monumental jump they made from year 1 to year 2. And even if we don't take quite that big a jump from year 2 to year 3, if we take half of that and just get somewhat better at pass pro and continue to get better at the run blocking, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
that gives me all the confidence in the world that that he can take that next step. And I'm just gonna say, Jacqueline, yes, he can snap the ball. He got better at it
He
in
got
the
better at
second
it.
half of
He
the
got
season.
he
We
got
didn't
better.
see as many of those, but those are going to happen regardless. In a season, a center is going to have a high snap, a low snap.
Yeah,
He's
but
going to
man,
roll one
there was a
occasionally.
stretch there
Or
where it was bad. So
yep,
I agree with her. I think, but our good buddy friend of the show, Damsky, brings up a good one,
yes.
talking about Richie Grant because of what Jesse Bates does.
What up,
Yes,
Dempsey?
yes, right. I think the addition of Bates is going to have such a wide ripple effect.
Yep.
That, and I think you're going to see, like, in a way, there's a good possibility. Now, granted, they drafted Daxton Hill last year, but I'm actually going to be interested to see what the Bengals defense looks like next year now that they've lost both of their,
Both. Yeah.
not just one, but both of them. So it'll be interesting to see uh, how that goes. Let's see. Millie says, JR, I think Mac Hollins could actually take his game up a level, especially if he stays at wide receiver too. That's the thing with Mac Hollins. He was either a late round guy or an undrafted guy who just hasn't really been given too much of a opportunity. So if it stays like it's projected, he's going to get that opportunity here to show that he can do what they wanted Auden Tate and what they wanted Brian Edwards to do when they traded for him last year, that neither one of them were able to do. So I'm excited about Mac Hollins and seeing what he can do.
Nick, you're saying get Ben Jones. I will say this: when I first heard that he was a free agent and we could go or he's being released, my first thought was yes, go get him. He's a guy that's been in Arthur Smith's system. Arthur Smith knows him. He loves the guy. Yada yada yada, all that stuff. But
Right.
again, if in my brain my thinking is Dahlman is essentially a second year guy coming into this season.
Yeah, first year starter. Like this will be his second year starting. So
This will be a second year starting. Uh, do you want to bring in a guy like Ben Jones? Because if you bring in a guy like Ben Jones, likelihood is that he's a starter.
right.
And does that stunt Dahlman's development?
I think so,
You
yeah.
know, so
Depending on what you do on the left side of Dahlman, like if you bring in somebody who is rock solid, whether there's everybody keeps talking about, like, Ganja's like saying there's a rumor Terry's looking for an OG in free agency. So if they go out and I know that there was a post on Wilkerson's IG almost like alluding that he might be signing again. But if you bring in a rock solid veteran offensive guard to stick beside Dahlman, I think that will help out a lot. Let's see. King 7 says Troy and Ellis is going to be a problem. I like the way the way they used Ellis and their linebackers last year. You were talking about that mugged up look. Like if that's what they're planning on doing, then yeah, there's a real good, especially if they decide to go that route and play a lot of big nickel behind it, with um, Hawkins and Richie and Jesse Bates, it could be really fun. Or like they brought in Mike Hughes and pretty much have already told him that he's going to be the slot guy, which was kind of odd because PFF had him graded out better on the outside than in the slot. But we'll see how that ends up working out.
yeah. Well, it also depends too. Like, are we looking to, especially if we go get a guy like a Gonzalez in the draft,
Right.
are we looking to play more man coverage? And at that point, yeah, he might technically be the slot, but if they're doing man stuff, maybe he's just
Right.
following his guy around, and if he happens to be outside, he goes outside. You know, so
Willie says 176 in chat. He said it's got to be a record. Good job, P for B. I will say it's not a record. The biggest chat we ever had was when the DeAndre or Deshaun Watson rather stuff was popping off last year. I think we had over 400 in chat, which was insanity. I could not
yeah,
keep up with chat.
spread it to all your friends.
That's right.
Because what I'm hoping is we can get something, maybe we can get something like that for like day one or night one of the NFL draft, because we'll probably be streaming for that.
Oh yeah, I mean we'll definitely be streaming for that, and I really do hope all y'all show up because we have a ton of fun in the draft night. Just it's not near like this is like our Tuesday streams are a little bit more like formal in a sense of like we try to stick to an outline, but on draft night we're there for 4 hours or whatever, so we just kind of cut loose and have a lot more fun.
Millie Mills is like Anderson finna turn into Kuechly this year. Watch, I'm calling it out. Look, I will tell you right now, if he turns into Kuechly, I will be happy. I just want the guy. I just want the guy to get more comfortable.
Yeah,
where he allows his freakish athletic ability to take over. He just he just goes where he knows he needs to be. And doesn't try to Superman it, and go and lose his gap integrity and do all the things you're not supposed to do as a linebacker. Doing all those things. As long as he can do that, and if he can get like that football IQ can blossom, and he can become more familiar with what offense is trying to do against him, all those things. Once he can get to that point, and the game slows down for him, then that athleticism is going to be awesome to watch.
Hey man, don't worry about it, Willie. I wasn't trying to correct you. I was just saying it is still amazing. I enjoy having everybody in here, and I really am hoping that your buddy Damsky comes in and he says tells a lot, then he corrects it with yells a lot. Yes, I really hope that my good buddy Damsky can join us on draft night and have some fun. Because
hey man, come on in.
That's right. Man, throat's all jacked up today. That pollen,
the pollen is kicking everybody's rear end.
Yeah, boy, it is kicking big time.
That's why I got this water over here. I got to keep it, otherwise my throat dries out, man.
Dude, this right here, full up. Yep. Let's see. Okay, I got to figure out, Corey, what are you saying here? How positive are y'all about it? About what? About? I don't know. Here we go.
About it.
Yeah, right. The Calais Campbell signing. We haven't signed him yet.
Nope.
So just keep that.
Technically, he hasn't even been in the building yet.
Right.
Apparently, that's happening later this week, whenever that is.
Right. And like, because to put it into a good perspective, we've already had Trey Flowers in for a visit, and as of right now, he's not signed. So just because we're talking to folks and having people in for visits doesn't mean that we're gonna sign, or they even gonna want to sign. So we'll see how all that goes. Go ahead. What you
got? Michael's saying we do need a running back. CP getting old. Huntley's hurt. Yep. Not saying we need use 8 on a running back, but we damn sure need a running back. I mean, we absolutely do. Whether we go with Bijan at 8, if he's available, and then. But like, if we get Bijan, I'll be happy about that. If we go,
I'll be ecstatic.
Yeah, if we get Bijan, I'll be fine with that. If we go, I don't know, Tajay Spears in the 3rd or 4th round. If we do that, I'll be happy. If we go Kenny McIntosh, there's myriad the running back talent. While yes, you do have Bijan up here. Jahmyr Gibbs would be
like right up under him. Like Bijan's 1A. Or not 1A. Bijan is 1, Gibbs is 2, and then it's everybody else.
Yes,
But
but
there's still a lot of fun talent in this draft.
yeah, there's tons of talent
Like,
there.
the video that we're putting out on Friday is, we take a look at some of the skill positions, and like one of the dudes is like, I enjoyed him initially just because of his name. He had a fun name. It's like Israel Bandakanda.
Yep.
But like once you dig into him more, it's like he's a fun guy. Like he's a guy I could see easily working in this scheme. So yeah, man, they're coming away out of this draft with a running back. I can almost guarantee it.
Yep.
I'd almost put a pound for pound hat on it.
Yep. Tony's saying once Calais Campbell enters the facility, we'll lock the doors, not let him out till he's signed. I
That's
like
right.
your I like the cut of your jib, sir.
Yeah, I like the tactics there.
Yep.
I like the tactics. Chris says, could you imagine bringing in CP84 fresh in the fourth quarter after Tyler and Bijan pound the defense for 3 quarters? I mean, that's what they're wanting to do. Everybody keeps freaking out about like, oh, we need speed at wide receiver, and we need this and we need that. Yes, but if they're really wanting to build like this, like potent running attack, like getting speed in the backfield is just as important as getting speed in like on the wide receiver end. And y'all keep forgetting, like I misunderstood a guy earlier on Twitter, but that aspect came up about the speed thing. And I was like, y'all do realize that, Kyle Pitts ran a 4.4, right? Like he ran a 4.440. Like, and tight end running a 4.440 is the same as a wide receiver running a 4.440 is the same regardless of who's doing it.
Yeah.
And so like you already have a major speed element.
Yeah.
And
Like he's got the speed. He doesn't quite have the twitch. Like what I would want to have is a guy who could run 4.4. That's a smaller guy. And I agree. We have that. People are like not thinking of that there, but I would like to have 6'1" guy that is 195, 205, somewhere in that
so
range.
you're wanting like a shifty, like break your neck, like with the
Yeah,
shiftiness along with, and I get it, like totally
yeah.
do. Willie tipped us $2, which we appreciate greatly. He says, with
Appreciate
these
it, Willie.
free agent moves, any reason to trade back? A reason, sure. The deal with trading back though is there's got to be somebody there that somebody wants to come up for.
Yep.
Generally speaking, that's a quarterback. So if Levis or Richardson is still sitting there, and it's if somebody thinks like because Detroit owns the 6th pick and they own like the 12th pick, I think, or the 13th pick, somewhere in there. So if somebody thinks that Detroit is going to take a quarterback, whether it's Levis or Richardson or whoever, and they feel like they got to jump them, then you might have something to talk about.
Yeah.
But for the most part, sitting at 8, sitting outside of the top 5 doesn't really lend itself to trading back. Not in the way that we would want it to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where it just all depends, like you said, all depends on who's there. If but as it stands right now, I don't think we're going to trade back. I don't think.
I don't think so either. Tony, correct me. They got the 18th pick. So yes, if Detroit thinks, or if somebody thinks they got to jump Detroit, or if what have you, like maybe Detroit wants to come back up to get a quarterback because they don't think they'll be there by the 18th pick. You see what I'm saying? What I'm getting at is that you've got to have a trade partner. Like William, what do you want Tony to explain? Or you just wanted to? You didn't have to donate. I'm trying to like if you got a question that you need clarification on, like throw it out there, and we'll do the best that we can. Or if Tony wants to answer, but definitely, I don't want y'all to ever think that y'all actually got a tip to get your stuff read. Because
as a matter of fact, here we go, Dwayne here. What is up for P for P? Now this offseason is what I'm talking about. Fontenot for Executive of the Year. I mean,
right.
we'll see how it pans out, but yeah, like this is this is the first year, and we're not even done, but this is the first year that we've really got to see like what kind of GM he is when he's not, you know, have one hand tied behind his back because he's got to
Right.
deal with crazy amounts of dead cap, no cap room to speak of. Can't really go out and build a team like you want to build it. This is the first time we've been able to really see that. And if things go the way they're going, it looks like we're going to potentially have even more draft cap space next year.
Right.
And so, I look at it as, yes, do we all want big time edge guy? Really, the only big time edge guy out there right now is Ngakwe, right? So, if we want that? Yes, we do. Are we going to be able to get that? Who knows? But don't look at this as we have to do everything in one off season.
No,
This is the first step in the rebuild. They're going to
right.
come back next year. There's going to be more free agents. We're going to find the guys that fit what we want to do. We're going to go get those guys, and we're going to be able to get. And we're not going to, assuming we're not going to overpay because that's what we haven't done so far. Some people said the Jesse Bates was overpaid, but I
don't think so. Tony Lambert asked a good question. Like he says, who do we actually see being the sack guy in the defense this coming season? I'm talking double-digit sacks. I think as the roster stands right now, I think your best chance at having the sack guy is Arnold Ebiketie. I think Ebiketie is your best chance of having your double-digit sack guy as it stands like right now. Like that could change, but
yeah, I think there's an outside chance if you add Calais Campbell and you now got Onyemata and you got Goldman back and you got Taquan Graham back. There's an outside chance that you could see Grady Jarrett like actually flourish because now the guys can't necessarily like say, okay, as long as we don't let that guy beat us, we don't got to worry about these guys.
right.
Don't let him beat us. If they have to, yes, obviously they're going to game plan for Grady Jarrett, but like throughout the game, at some point, like if those other guys are making you or are beating you because you're putting so much towards Grady Jarrett, you got to stop doing that at some point. And now
Right.
you start leaving Grady in more one-on-ones, and you start doing that, he's just going to feast. As soon as he starts doing that, then you start pulling guys over to him again, and those guys start to feast. And if you can
Right.
get that going, where it's like it doesn't matter who's in there, we're getting penetration and all that stuff. I can see Grady Jarrett. He's come, he's 6.5. I could see him in a better situation with more talent around him, being a guy that could get close to, if not to, double.
Somebody let me know like what was his sack total in 2016 or was it 17 that we had Don Terry Poe? Because that was the last time he had real help on the defensive line is when we had Don Terry Poe. So I'll be interested to see what he is what those sack numbers were that year. Hall says, if we stay at 8, do we pick Miles Murphy or Tyree Wilson? If both of those guys are there, I think you pick. I don't know. I would choose Tyree Wilson probably. I like Miles Murphy. He seems to be the more like polished of the two, but Tyree Wilson seems to have the more upside and the more traits to bet on. And here lately, that's what the league has been betting on is traits. So
his best year was for production was 2019.
Okay.
He had 7.5 sacks. He had 6 in 2018. The year we went to the Super Bowl, he had 3.
Okay. So it must have been yeah, okay. I just know like he was overall like very productive in when we had Don Terry Poe. Let's see. King says Grady requires double if David can do the same or someone else. Yeah, Grady requires a double. If David can do the same or someone else, Arnold's going to eat. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is that, if you finally have some real push up the middle, then guys like Arnold Ebiketie, even Lorenzo Carter, are may their production is going to go up quite a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately,
That-
Corey's right. Beasley was the last double-digit sack guy, but that was because of Freeney, really.
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
It was Freeney, it was Grady, it was, but he was also the guy that they really ran the stunts in the games with
right?
him really
Yep.
well. And that's where he got a bunch of his sacks was off those stunts in games, like one on one against a guy. Like he got some, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
he wasn't just straight up beating guys left and right.
no. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about what this D line is going to look like, especially if we add, another pass rusher via whether it's free agency or the draft. Um, Tony says he thinks we'll have two players with double digit sacks. Might be
Be
wishful
awesome.
thinking, but hey, I'd love it. He says, Grady Jarrett and Arnold Ebiketie also believe that D'Angelo Malone will get at least 7 sacks playing outside linebacker rotation with the new talent amassed. A lot of times I feel like we get to a point where we forget about the guys that we already have. And we're only looking at the new guys in a sense. Like I would gather that most people have forgotten that we have D'Angelo Malone, and he's a really good prospect who like it has a really good speed to power conversion, and can be like a blitzing Sam Backer. Um, I don't think Lorenzo Carter is 6'5", 270.
He's 6'5", but he's 255.
255. Okay, I didn't think he was 270. I was like, man, am I remembering that wrong?
Yeah, he doesn't look anything. He
Right.
just
I was like,
doesn't
he don't
look
look
270.
270. He don't look like he's that thick. Like 270, that carries big difference. But anyway,
Yeah, it's like I'll say like this right here. AK, Dr. Ganja. AK was close to getting at least 4 more sacks. AK is going to eat with Onyemata and Grady. That's like the problem is that yeah, he was close, and then all guys had to do was step up because we didn't have enough guys that could collapse the interior of that pocket
right.
and push them back out to Ebiketie or Malone or whatever. So
Right. And that's the thing is the for the vast majority of the time, like I say like back in the day, quarterbacks they wanted to step up in the pocket. If you were collapsing the pocket, that flushed them out, and that's what you wanted. Nowadays, you almost don't want you want them in the middle of the pocket to because a lot of these guys nowadays can really pick them up and put them down.
yep,
But I'm super excited about what this at least as it stands right now, what this D line represents, and the fact that they are still looking at guys like Calais Campbell, and we haven't even gotten to the draft yet. Really makes my really makes my heart sing, John. Really,
I know, I know. I cannot wait. Like let's see if Campbell comes in. Let's see if we actually sign him. Let's see if there's any other edge guys that we end up picking up. And if we picked up an edge guy, I'll even say it right now. If it's not Ngakwe, give me Frank Clark. Like, give me a
somebody
guy.
it was somebody said because Frank Clark and all his penalties, he said no thank you.
Yeah, but like he's just another guy to bring in as a veteran presence, a guy who's been successful, has won a couple of Super Bowls. He's a guy that you bring in to instill that culture in that locker room. And he can help out, even more so like Ebiketie and Malone, those guys on like here's how to do it,
Yep, yep.
and
He's
and
another one of
he's
those
a guy
guys.
he's a guy that's been clutch. It's not just he was on teams that won. He was on teams that he was the reason why they won because he
Yeah,
came up with big plays at the end of games.
I was about to say his days in Arizona and Jacksonville were pretty big. Let's see. Our line play should get a kick in the rear with regardless of who we draft. Bringing in lineman coach and two more defensive minded after Pease retired was huge. I think. Yeah, I think I'm interested to see obviously what Nielsen's going to do, but the fact that he's done what he's done and we still got as Ganja says, we still got TQ who's going to improve under Nielsen. Nielsen's getting a brand new line. Yeah, exactly. Like
Like
almost
that's the other guy that if I was going to say if like he was kind of my 1A, but, as far as guy who could take the biggest step forward this year, it was Dahlman. My next guy was going to be Taquan Graham because we started to see that already before his injury. Like
right,
he was like legit coming on, and then he got hurt. And
right.
if he can continue to build from there, like I'm super excited to see what he looks like this
Yeah,
year. Maybe not early on, maybe a little bit later in the season as he gets more like into the into the flow of things.
no, he's got another good question. It says if Ritter only wins 8 games and no playoffs, does that mean Atlanta would need to look for a new QB?
Depends.
The context matters. If he is throwing interceptions like crazy and making bad decisions and looking overwhelmed, then yes. But if it's like tight games and the defense isn't holding up his end of the bargain and he's looking good, but fumbles are happening by other players, if there's things that are out of his control, then no. But if uh if it's a deal where he looks like a train wreck, then yeah, you're going to need to look for a quarterback. Like I hate to put it like that, but like at this point, I'm not really quote unquote giving Ritter more than 23 in my mind. Like my mind is like 23. Ritter just needs to show that he can belong, and if he shows more good than bad, then you rock and move forward with Ritter. That's kind of how I feel on that. But if it's like boneheaded, like legitimately throwing it into the arms of the other guy, making like terrible decision, costing us games, then yeah, okay, you tried it. Now go get a QB. So
Yep,
that's that.
absolutely. I
That's
you
my
you,
thoughts
you
there.
s- Yeah, you said it exactly how I would say it.
Yeah,
It all depends on it. If you're going to look at Ritter for this coming season, don't. I'm not saying completely disregard it, but don't strictly go on uh, record.
right,
To really make you know a informed decision about him, you need to watch him.
right,
Right? If he throws a really good pass that a guy just bobbles it and it ends up being an interception, yeah, that goes on his stat sheet. That's an interception on him. I think that wide receivers need to have a stat column where it's like, no, that it's almost
that
like
one was on him.
uh,
Yeah,
it's almost like an error in you have an official scorer just like you
right,
do in baseball that says that was an error. And maybe they can, and sometimes in baseball, they can go back like the next day or even a couple days later and change that and say like, oh, it wasn't actually an error. So now we add that to the ERA for the pitcher. Uh, same thing here. Like get official scorers that look at a pass and say like, look, this pass hit him right here. He clanged it for whatever reason. It went off of his hands, and some guy behind him caught it,
right,
and it was an interception. That should be on the wide receiver. If the guy's throwing it way out here and he just barely can get to it, uh, then yeah, then you get that on the quarterback. But yeah,
but Nick does bring up a good point about like getting into the QB carousel. It's not where you want to be, but
no,
I'll follow it up with this. Uh, if you don't have a QB, like if you don't have a QB you don't believe in, then you're gonna have a tough time winning games, regardless.
yep,
So, well, man, I think that's gonna pretty much do it for us tonight. We've had a really good night. We appreciate
yes, we
all
have.
y'all who have come in here and hit us up with comments and questions. Um, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's like any like last ones that I want to grab real quick. Let's
I
see.
got one. I got
What you
one.
got? Go ahead. Ah,
Liz, 2023 23 stats. 3,800 yards, 24 TDs, 10 interceptions, 500 rush yards, 5 touchdowns. So if he's got that would give him what 29 total touchdowns against 10 interceptions,
I take it.
just a little under 4,000 yards.
Passing
I
like over 4,000 all-purpose yards. Yeah, dude.
yeah, yeah. I would take that as a year, essentially a year one of his career. I would take that because if we can get that kind of production out of him, maybe a couple fewer interceptions. But if we can get that kind of production out of him, I think that means that we probably win a 10, 10, 11, maybe as many as 12 games because
I think if you get that,
he's not
yeah,
the issue.
right. If you get that kind of production, I think you're very much in contention to win the South for sure.
Yes.
And you've
Yes.
been in contention to win the South the past 2 years, and the fact that you're not starting over, like Carolina is starting over, uh, Tampa Bay for the most part is starting over. Uh, New Orleans has had to dump a lot of their guys, and they're trying to still figure it out. So yeah, I think you do that, and you're definitely in contention for the NFC South. All right, folks. Y'all keep your eye on the channel as we will
Yep.
have the first in our series of draft profiles coming out on Friday. Um, I got next week. I got a video special guest. I recorded a video with that'll probably be dropping maybe on Monday. I don't know. I haven't decided exactly when I want to drop that video yet, but got a special video coming up, a series that I'm going to be trying to do throughout this draft season. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128.
Jonathan or at Jonathan M. Holder. Come say hi.
There you go. And yeah, man, y'all are awesome tonight. And as always, Falcons fans,
Absolutely.
rise up.
Rise up.